I mean, we couldn't have written it, but we did.
Yeah, don't you have a SoundCloud or something?
I got a little SoundCloud, yeah.
We spent 2 days in the writer's room, like with the writers being like, is this good? Do you think they'll buy it? We went in and they're like, great, sounds good, have fun.
Hi, I'm Entertainment Weekly staff writer Chancellor Agard, and this is Around the Table with the cast and showrunners of Dear White People. Welcome, guys, and thank you guys for being here today.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for having us.
We were never as alive as we were that year. Pretending like our lives were a 90s musical. Don't you want that feeling back?
What people just burst out into song?
You are Black and gay, both groups notorious for spontaneous singing.
This is how we do it.
What a time. I mean, the show's about to come back for its final season. And I want to start with Justin. I mean, you've been on this Dear White People journey for over a decade now. How does it feel to sort of be at the end of this incarnation of it, I guess?
How dare you, a decade? It feels good. I mean, it feels like I went to college with these characters, you know what I mean? And I'm like finally graduating. It was an enormously difficult thing to do, but it's something that has been so fulfilling since, you know, I first started it. So I'm glad that we are I'm glad we had a journey to go to the end of, to be honest with you. So I'm pretty grateful. I'm in a good, grateful place.
Ashley, Marque, and Brandon, I mean, you guys were part of the original movie. I mean, how does it feel for your part of this journey to be at an end as well?
I just feel really blessed to have come to the end of this, you know, to have made it from the movie all the way to now the end of season 4. It just feels like such an accomplishment, but it's such a blessing. So many people don't get to go this far with the series. And so it just feels really good to close it out with a bang.
I second all those things Ashley just said. I mean, it was such a huge part of my life, our lives from the beginning until now. Who we were back then is a complete different person than I know who I am today. And so blessed and grateful.
Yeah, mission accomplished. And just heart full of gratitude.
I mean, Logan, DeRon, and Antoinette and John, I mean, you guys stepped into roles that were previously played by other people in the movie. I'm curious for you guys, how does it feel when you sort of look back at that first season and see how far you've come with these characters?
Well, we actually got to watch our audition tapes, which was insane. And one of the things I noticed specifically about Antoinette and DeRon and myself was that even the ideas that we had going into the audition were not what ended up happening in the season 1 of Dear White People. Like once we got on set with Justin and Jaclyn and the writers, and we really got to uncover these characters, we peeled back layers we couldn't have even known existed. So it was a really fun journey.
I mean, it was nice to know that we came into something that was already established, but Justin gave us the freedom to make these roles our own. And it was it's nice to be a part of this historic piece of art. I'm obsessed with all of these people and the work that we did.
Coming into something and not knowing, you know, where it's going to go or how things are going to unfold, you know, it was exciting to be a part of something where Justin had an idea, you know, when you see it in a script form, like in the movie, and then how, like, where it can expand. So it was more exciting to just be a part of the collaboration and growth of these kids that, you know, how far they were going to go with each other and go through all of that. So it's all been very gratifying. You know, I'm forever grateful.
I mean, you mentioned rewatching your audition tapes. I'm curious to hear more about that and what that experience was like, revisiting that starting point and seeing how much, I guess, as you said, how things changed.
I felt that, I mean, I watched the audition tape and it was so much of an idea of who I believe Coco to be instead of an embodiment of who she became. And I think having the freedom with a creator that says, listen, like, you know, Coco existed, but I want to see your version of Coco. Having that freedom, I just felt like it expanded the depth we gave her together. And I'm grateful to see that. It's very interesting to see the trajectory from the beginning to now. It's pretty nice to see.
Dear White People, counting down till the day I graduate. The Varsity Show is a week away.
That corny sketch comedy thing, isn't it like SNL, but written by amateurs and yet somehow still better written?
That's dope. And I mean, this final season is a musical. Justin and Jaclyn, can you sort of talk to me a bit about like how you guys went about sort of pitching this to Netflix and their reaction and pulling this off, I guess?
It was a bad idea and we regret it immensely. No, it was great. I mean, Justin came before the season writer's room opened. Justin and I had lunch and he was like, so you know how we've always wanted to do a musical episode? I was like, the monkey paw curls. Yes, I do. And he's like, what if the whole season? And then he had a lot of to his brilliant credit, had a lot of the broad strokes of what the show ended up being in this last season. And then going to Netflix, I think we expected to have to like really sell it. Like there was like a big presentation. Justin is the king of the deck. Like he'll make like a specialty website to like show off all of the possibilities. And we spent 2 days in the writer's room, like with the writers being like, is this good? Do you think they'll buy it? Do you think they'll like it? And then we went in and they're like, great, sounds good. Have fun.
Yeah. I mean, basically that. And we're just like insane and masochistic. And I don't know.
In our defense, we did not know COVID would happen.
We did not
when we came up with it.
Who, Lord, did we not know? But I honestly, like, I had to do something that was going to be really, really exciting. I mean, it's sort of, we never really had the benefit of being able to like plan the whole thing at once. You know, the way our show would work is that we would air and then we'd find out if we were coming back. And so, it was like, how do we put something together that feels like a big ending, sort of continues this tradition of changing up how the show feels every season, but also like really say something to this moment and to what I was going through. I usually come into the writer's room with what I'm dealing with, and I sort of want to hear what everybody else is dealing with. And we sort of like put all the stuff we're dealing with into a big pile and make it into a show. And it just felt like for a show that's all about how we present versus what's really happening on the inside of us, there's nothing better to tell that kind of a story than a musical, in my opinion. And so we just went for it.
90s musical, but black.
Baby! Our culture. I will spontaneously combust into glitter.
Oh.
I mean, the cast, how did you guys react when you found out about the musical premise of the final season?
I was like, I can't sing.
I can't sing.
I was excited. I went to school for musical theater. So I was like, these are my musical theater dreams coming true. Like in the 4th season of a show that was not at all a musical. So for me, I was like, God, you're listening. So it definitely was very, very exciting for me.
Yeah, I'll say I was excited too, because I found out it was 90s music. I love the 90s. I do music too. I've been doing music since I was like 15, 16. So it's always good to involve your hobbies in your job. So I don't think I've ever had a chance to do that until this show. So I'm blessed to be able to do that. Yeah, I had a good time.
Yeah, don't you have a SoundCloud or something?
I got a little SoundCloud, yeah.
We might have previewed it in the writer's room, just a touch.
Yes, I feel like they stole ideas from all of us, and what they see
stole ideas. Yes,
in the cafeteria, we do a lot of cafeteria moments. So yeah.
Yes, we got the whole show's from DeRon SoundCloud. Actually, it should be created by Justin Simien and DeRon Horton SoundCloud. But I do want to say, just because Brandon and Antoinette fell on swords there, they may not think that they're singers, but they performed the out of Numbers. Can I say They performed the S out of Numbers, and truly killed it. I mean, the rest of y'all kind of like just sing and do music, but I mean, maybe not Logan, but Logan's a dancer and she sings. She's got a great voice. She came in, but Antoinette and Brandon, both of them were very, I don't want to say anxious, but you both were like, are you sure this is what you want to do? And they both were, I mean, the whole cast, but it was just such a delight to see everybody kind of come alive in that.
I was terrified.
So that was fun. We got to rap. So we weren't singers, but we got to, spit something. It was real cute. It was fun.
See, that's, to me, there's something political about that. in a good way, because Black music encompasses all of that. It encompasses singing, it encompasses rap music, it encompasses like rhythm and dance and all the things that frankly make musical cinema so hot in the first place, and yet there's so few Black stories set to music. And I just knew that just by doing those two things, Black and music, we would have a way for everybody to participate in that, because that's what our culture does. That's what we do anyway. So they were nervous, but I think everybody, I think we went into it hoping that everyone would have a spotlight, and I think we found one for everybody in the cast.
Well, I was terrified and stressed.
Was it as Brandon, Antoinette? I mean, coming into, I mean, for you, what was the key to sort of overcoming your initial sort of maybe hesitation about this, I guess, and dropping in and doing it?
You know, it wasn't so much so my hesitation, because I love musicals. I live for musicals. I sing The Wizard and I from the Wicked soundtrack on my trampoline weekly. It was just a matter of me knowing my capabilities and whether or not I could actually follow through the way that I really wanted to finish the 4th season strong. And I'm very proud of the work that we all did. I feel like it was very true to Coco, and it had its own little flavor that you kind of might not expect, but I thought it was cute and it was fun. It was like rehearsal. It was a whole thing. I have so much respect for dancers and singers, so much, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, just surrendering to the vision, I think, creatively, you know, trusting that you're in good hands and knowing that, like, I might not be, you know, a Grammy Award winning singer, but the cast, through like their support and finding, and Justin being able to just find a place, like you said, for all of us to contribute, just kind of knowing you were in good hands. So that was it. Just keeping an open mind, and like during the audition, being like, I can't sing, like for real. I can't, like, don't do it to the fans. Don't do it to them. And Justin and Jaclyn just listening to that and really honoring kind of what we wanted to bring to this new season.
I just wish there was something on my schedule worth waking up for.
If you have to add something, go ahead and add something that's fun.
When I touch and rub you the right way.
Black ideas, Black music.
Making a musical, even a single episode, is difficult in normal times. I feel like doing it entire season of it, as Jaclyn mentioned, during a pandemic, seems like a Herculean, maybe even Sisyphean task. For you guys, what, I guess, for both the actors and producer, can you guys both talk about sort of the challenges you guys face in pulling this off?
I will say that I definitely did not anticipate that so much of my job would be thinking about HIPAA violations. Like that, that was something I didn't anticipate. I didn't anticipate zones.
Yeah.
Usually I was like, is it good? And now it was like 50%. Is it good? And also like, who was talking to who and who's within 6 feet of each other? Other than that, it was fun.
I mean, I would agree that was the most challenging part. I mean, nothing on earth could have prepared anybody for a pandemic, period, but especially like shooting a television program during said pandemic. It was nuts. And I think that, like, collectively, psychologically speaking, everybody, myself included, was just trying to deal with the daily trauma of like existing in the world during this time, let alone creating a TV show, let alone creating a musical TV show. I mean, it really was crazy, but it was almost so crazy that, like Brandon said, there really wasn't a choice but to surrender to it at a certain point and to just hope that whatever ideas we came up with before the pandemic were good enough to lean into, because there really wasn't a lot of time to think or like wash or figure out where I was. We just had to go every day until it was done.
I think for me, the hardest part was that we just didn't have a lot of rehearsal time. I think we all anticipated that we would have a lot of rehearsal time, but due to COVID and everything that everyone just mentioned, we didn't have a lot of it. But for me, looking at the show now, it makes me all the more grateful for the work that we did do, because I think that it's really incredible considering the fact that we didn't just have weeks and months of rehearsals. We were really thrust into it. And I think that the work we did was superb given the circumstances.
For me, I was relearning how to tap dance in my garage for a couple months via Zoom and FaceTime, horrible service. Then I was in Australia for like, for about 3 months. So then the timing was different. So learning with the choreographer, I had to make a tap board over there, tap dance in the garage, no service, crazy Australian people being like, what the fuck is going on over there? Like, don't worry about me, leave me alone. But it really was, same thing with Justin said, just a set of like circumstances and challenges and just kind of staying alive, but still pressing forward and still pushing through to really just, again, step up to the plate and deliver. Whatever the outcome was.
It was definitely a season of adapt and survive. My little mantra was like my particulars of how like, you know, we like to work in our processes, but like also to be very malleable with that. So, you know, Logan and I having a number together and also having a scene that precedes that, having to like find that moment in time to kind of run through our characters and who we're talking about before going into the booth to sing, you know, and just knowing like, oh, we only have this amount of time to do that. And we would talk on the phone while she's at her house, FaceTiming, running around doing whatever she's doing. And I'm doing my own thing just so we can have those moments in order to have those time to prepare and feel good, like we, you know, so we can do the best job we possibly can under completely absurd circumstances. But that's how it felt. You know, I just felt like everybody really just, we knew that we had a goal. Everyone works really, really hard. And I think at the end of the day, we care so much about the work that we're doing. And I think everyone really, really put in as much as they possibly could. And I think that's all we could really do at the time.
Does anyone else our age even listen to it?
Should be all right. It's none of your business.
Or is it mostly just 30-year-olds who tend to write characters in our age group?
I'm curious, are there any sort of fun or sort of interesting memories or stories from this season that sort of immediately come to mind when you guys sort of look back on it?
I've never laughed on this show.
I blocked it all out.
I actually am thinking, well, speaking of that, so John Patrick and I have a duet together. It goes along with the pandemic of it all because, you know, when I look back at these videos of people in the 90s singing songs together, like you see them in the booth together, like singing their hearts out to each other. John Patrick and I were in completely different rooms, couldn't see each other, you know, imagining this person across from you. And I remember being like, okay, I don't know who's watching this. We're not like loose enough. I was like, can someone go get us some tequila? Because we're coming off of like these characters were after a dinner party, like, and you have a very short period of time to really be thrust into the circumstances. And I just remember us really being present for each other, knowing we weren't going to be able to look at each other's faces. And like, I would run out of the booth and be like, okay, wait, John Patrick, on this part, I'm going to do this. Okay, I'm going back.
Yeah, that was fun. Stressful but fun. And I think that's what I mean. Like, it's the embracing of the stress. And I think like that lived through like the kind of the work, you know. I would say it's definitely a highlight. It's definitely one of an experience that, you know, hopefully you never have to go through that. But, you know, I won't regret having to have someone like Logan to be able to push through that together and know that this is a heightened reality that we're living in and it's real. And then, you know, you live in these fake realities that are like really fun to get together and play with. And then you're no longer just playing. It's like, oh, okay, you got to do this. So yeah, her running out and like looking me in the eyeballs. And I would try, like, the booths were like this. So I could like barely see her like doing her arms and like what she was trying to do. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, we're in this, like arguing from, you know, 60 yards away. But yeah.
Virtual insanity.
Is this the legacy we want? Showtime at Winchester. Minstrelsy. Black AF is protesting the show and anyone involved.
I mean, I feel like this show has always dealt with timely topics just by just the nature of it. But I feel for you guys, how did it feel to sort of come back into production on this, sort of in the wake of last summer's protests and also sort of reports of how like viewership of the show dramatically increased in the wake of those protests as well? I guess you guys feel additional pressure. I mean, what was going through your minds when you guys sort of started came back into this world, I guess?
There's always such a weird relationship. I mean, partly because by design, you know, as fanciful as the show gets, we're really trying to hit at something that is true about the Black condition right now. And so it's weird when it happens, but it happens every season, that what we're writing about tends to start to happen around us, and proof of concept is happening around us. You know, we were the season was meant to be about like, how do we kind of parse the difference between like real activism and the kind of activism that is perhaps maybe more performative, maybe more about driving our brand or like making money or surviving in the capitalism side of America. How do we square that with our actual passions and needs for change? And where do these movements go? I mean, these were the questions I was asking at the start of the season. And so for us to literally be in the midst of a so-called racial reckoning, daily sort of running into that performative allyship versus real allyship, questions about like, wow, we're really like in production during a pandemic. And like, is that okay? And isn't it what I need inside? But is it safe? I mean, we were literally daily in the crucible that we were creating for the season. So it was surreal. It was bizarre, but it also, you know, the first thing I learned really like from an acting coach is to use it. Whatever's happening, just use it. Like take whatever it is, don't question it, put it into the work. And that's how you make it honest, as well as interesting. And that was sort of my mantra during that time, because it was just, I mean, we couldn't have written it, but we did.
And we started writing in November of 2019, maybe even earlier than that, maybe like October of 2019. And so a lot of the stuff that's in the season that feels like, wow, they're really responding to stuff. It was like, well, actually we wrote it like 6 months before anything was happening. And then like, we were like thrust in and Justin and I were looking at each other being, I guess, again, we've like, it sometimes felt like we would write things and then they would like happen around us, like almost in a magically real kind of way.
Like, remember in November, Jaclyn, we were pitching, there was a line and we like worked in a COVID reference and we had like a full on several weeks back and forth over whether or not we thought that line would even play, you know, a year and a half.
People are going to forget about COVID by the time this comes out.
Like, is this going to date us? Cut to it never ended.
It's not a spoiler, I suppose, because the show opens with it. But part of this season takes place in the future. And in writing those future bits, we had a bit about COVID in the future. And we were like, this might date us because, again, this is November of 2019. We didn't know come March of 2020, like, actually the whole world would shut down. Yeah, that kind of stuff happened a lot. It was very unnerving, but also I guess it made us feel like, hey, maybe we're saying something that matters.
We have a chance to tell our story. And
the next generation is out to cancel you. Consider it a badge of honor.
If you do this right, the varsity show can launch you to the stratosphere.
Ooh, got that Obama look in his eyes.
This is how we do it.
Finally, start wrapping up. I'm curious, again, without getting into spoilers, I'm curious for the cast. How did you guys react when you found out about how your characters' journeys were ending this season? I guess how do you feel about the series finale and where you guys left things with these characters?
I'm satisfied. I'm happy. There are so many different things that I envisioned for Coco, and it's very nice to see. It's very nice to see where she ends up. And it's hard to like. It's hard, you know what I mean? But it's very nice to see where she ends up.
There's something I really appreciate about seeing these characters in the future, getting to say goodbye to these characters, like not just in senior year, but in the future, or see you later, because they're still alive, right? We just don't know what they're doing in their life. The thing that I appreciate about how you leave the characters is that, in my personal opinion, you have this group of students who are very high achieving, who are like the epitome of Black excellence, which everyone Black is excellent, but they are very like overachieving type A folks. And I think it's a fascinating look at what the world does to them, like how the world treats them, how the world takes them in and spits them back out, and where it leaves them, and if they're truly happy. Like they have these different things of successful things that they've been working for, and maybe they don't, but are they happy? I think is something that I find myself asking Logan as I'm watching these characters, like, wow, like you worked so hard, you have to be better and better and better. And like, do you ever stop and go, like, is this really, is this what I want? Is this what the world wants? I think that exploration of where you leave the characters at the end is very fascinating.
It makes you question the choices that you've made over the course of your life and whether or not the things that you have done have been in your best interest or not. It's nice to see that with all of the characters.
Sorry, I just got to say it really quick. The tricky thing about any story about racism or Black people that is aiming for truth is that it's not necessarily a happy ending you can get to, because we are nowhere near an ending when it comes to these issues. And so the needle we tried to thread is, well, how do we avoid sort of all of the tropes of Black tragic characters in shows like this, and also, not saturated with just Pollyanna-ish happy endings, to where it doesn't even feel like we're talking about reality anymore. And I realized like that was the question I had for myself at that time we were making this. Is like, okay, there's been some wins and there've been some losses. There've been some setbacks here, but we still have to find some joy, and we still have to find some community, and we still have to find a reason. And that was as close to true and happy as I thought I could get. So that's the tone we tried to strike with each of the characters.
Awesome. Well, I am getting the please rap sign from the moderator. So
never.
Don't go.
Thank you all for taking the time to join me today. And for people watching this, please tune in to Dear White People on September 22nd on Netflix.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.